Hello guys, so this is the recap. This is the weekly recap of the previous week, February week 4, right? 2026. So as usual, we do start by looking at the previous weekly cycle whenever we entering into a new week, right? So here, this was the high and the low of week 3, right? So that's like, this is non-negotiable. This is something we have to look at before we even, start to consider where the current week is going to go. You have to always know where the previous high, previous low of the week is, right? So here, this one thing we know, and then based on that and based on how the week closed, right? You have to ask yourself, okay, where we actually going to go? Is this week going to go lower? Is going to go lower, right? So for me, I was looking for a bullish week, at least for the most part, right? You guys can check the previous week's messages, you know, like on my Telegram. I believe it was on Tuesday after we got this a weekly cycle sequential MT. I was like, guys, we in here for a bullish week, and that's what happened, right? At least until Wednesday before we got this drop on Thursday. So that you have to always be wary. You have to always know how the previous weeks played out, how the previous week played out, where the high and the low is, so you can know what to target first, right? So that's it for the monthly cycle. No, so let's drop down to our weekly cycle. So we're going to be looking at our weekly cycle on the 1 hour time frame, right? So this is our high, previous week's high, and then the low is down there, right? So on Monday, which I did not participate, we did have this, right? On Monday, we had 9 a.m. No, during that 9:30 opening, we made an open high right into this gap, and then we had a drop, right? This on sales, by the way, wasn't part of that, and because I just like to always let money play out, right? It doesn't mean there's no trading opportunity. If I want to trade every day, trust me, I will always get something to work with, right? But I just like to go for basically like the most efficient trade that I can participate in, or the like the highest probability ones, right? So here I knew we were in for bullish week, and the week wasn't the bullish move wasn't, or the expansion wasn't going to start on Monday. So I knew that. So what do? I wait for Tuesday, which is like going to be the manipulation cycle, and it's exactly what happened, right? So on Tuesday, we put in this weekly cycle sequential MT. On NQ, it was a filler swing. On ES, we had a turtle soup, which is a lower low, right? So this is a lower high, and then exactly the opposite on SPX 500, which is ES if you trade in the futures contracts, right? So failure swing straight away from here, knew this was it, low of the week, and unfortunately I didn't get the exact execution that I wanted to get, right? But that was it. I still got my entry around there, right? So we're going to drop down to the straight away to the 90-minute cycle because we never had any daily cycle, right? Never had anything on the daily time frame to work with. So um uh, this is exactly what did happen. NQ or NAS 100 had a filler swing, didn't clear the previous day's low. ES did that. We then had to reverse from here, right? Based on that logic, and you could just see price doing it, right? So you could see price doing it thing right here, like after this 9:30 open low set away the 9:35 candle, just rejected off of this place, right? But then it was way too quick, right? So I did really participate in that. I did really utilize Though this is what I was waiting for. I was waiting for something to occur around this place, around this area, but then it just kind of left me before I actually did my execution. So after I saw this gap here, this was where I had entry, right? So I waited for price to retrace back into this gap. I retrace back into this gap, and then we had this CSD or this close above inside the gap, right? So that was literally where I had my execution. Stop at the low, you know, had a 2 hour trade, you know, basically targeted around here. And that was the first trade of the week on Tuesday, right? Though it was supposed to be down here, but it still was a decent trade. For those of you guys in my Telegram group, you guys were able to see that. And I called it right there, right? I was like, you guys were going to be in for a bullish week, right? So that was the first, that was the first one for the week for me. So going into the Wednesday candle right here, right? So on Wednesday was also a decent day, right? So after Tuesday manipulation, then we do expect Wednesday to be a distribution cycle as well, though it was kind of, it didn't give me the kind of model that I'm used to. It didn't give me that execution that I always wanted, right? So after this, I was expecting, for a 932, a little bit, some manipulation, yes, before we distribute, right? But then that did not happen. We put in like 930 straight away distributed, and I didn't have an entry off of that, right? So no entry, no execution on Tuesday, but we did have that Q2, Q3 also, that ascension cycle sequential MT. We had the rider, though there was no execution. I couldn't chase it, right? I knew we were going to continue going higher, but I just couldn't chase it, so it was better leaving it right there. And then on Thursday we then had a reversal, right? So we had that weekly reversal on Thursday, which came and took out the Wednesday lows, and I wasn't part of that. Reason being, it looked decent, right? So we actually had I mean, a monthly cycle sequential MT. So Q2 highs were cleared on ES and NQ. YM failed to clear them, right? UF30 had a failure swing, and that was also good logic behind us dumping, right? Because that was a crack, cleared the previous week's highs and failed to on the other set. That was a good reason to dump. So we also did have a daily cycle sequential MT. If you are looking at the daily cycle as well, right? So right here, you can see we had the hidden. Looking at the bodies, we had a failure swing. On ES was the exact opposite, right? So the reason I didn't participate in this is that I had no these cracks occurred way before the session, right? So if you drop down to the 5 minute to look at the New York AM session cycle, which is the Q3 that I participate in, we will notice that here, you know, like when the session kicking, price just straight away kept dumping, right? And all these gaps weren't getting filled. If we had a gap fill here, like an SMT fill, that would have been a great entry because we already knew that we are massively bearish. But then that did not happen. So that's also the reason I did not participate on Tuesday. Basically, just letting things be, not forcing anything, right? So, and then the final trade of the week was on Friday, and this was it right here, right? So after that, Thursday dump, right? We then form a crack between let's first go back to the weekly cycle. Let me see something. So Thursday took out this week's lows, right? And then Friday did open here, and we kept dumping lower, right? But then I knew that, Friday being Friday, we are not going to keep, we weren't going to keep dumping from here, right? I knew that we are going to have, we are going to have a reaction of you know off of this level right here, right? Because this manipulation was really enough. We also cleared out Thursday's lows, right? So you know, I knew that clearing the previous day's lows was going to give us a reaction to at least trade back into the range, and that happened exactly during 9 a.m. right? So this is where I then looked for something to work with, and I noticed that there was a Eden. So right here, I then noticed that we had a Eden session cycle sequential MT right there, right? And we actually got, there was some massive manipulation. You could see this candle 940 after after this, right? So again, it cleared the lows, or the you know kind of, it almost disrespected the sequential MT, right? The curve that was put in place. But then the closures is what we work with the most. So they say that wicks. So they say that wicks, bodies tell the wicks tell the story. How do you say it? Well, yeah, I forgot. Okay, but yeah, we normally focus on the body closures, right? Like the wicks do the manipulation and all that, right? But you want to mostly focus on the bodies, and this is exactly what happened. So we got a close there, and then a close above, right? So after getting this rejection like this, I entered in this candle. You guys can also check the execution in my Telegram channel. This is what happened. I was trying to hold for London highs, but then I noticed that price was very slow, not moving at the normal phase. Also realized it was Friday, so I took my trade out at these highs right here, right? And that was literally it for the week. And if you guys do have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comment section. You can also ask me anything in my Discord group or in the Telegram channel, right? You So you can literally do that. You can also drop down, like you can also comment on any topics that you want me to talk about. I'm going to be releasing a lot of videos based on what you guys need. So that's going to be it for this video, and I'll see you in the next one.